The void outside was no longer empty. Warships filled the stars, black silhouettes bristling with weapons. Their engines glowed like suns, their hulls stretched like knives across the darkness. Inside the small vessel, alarms screamed red light across the walls. The girl stood tall, silver fire rising from her skin. The human sat in the pilot's chair, his eyes steady on the oncoming fleet. "They mean to end this," she whispered. "Yes," he said. "And so do we." The first warship fired. A beam of white fire cut through space, aimed to split the human's vessel apart. The girl lifted her hand. The beam bent, twisting like a serpent, and vanished into the void. More weapons lit up. Missiles streaked forward. Plasma flared. The fleet closed in, determined to crush them under sheer force. Her glow blazed hotter. Her voice trembled with fury. "I could break them all." "Yes," the human answered calmly. "I could tear this fleet apart in seconds." "You could." Her eyes narrowed. "And if I do, what will you become? The one who unleashed me?" The ship shook as blasts rained against its shields. Sparks flew from the panels. The human rose from the chair, stepping closer. His face was calm, but his words were sharp. "If you destroy them, you prove them right. You become the curse they tell in whispers, the weapon they say you are." Her fists trembled with light. "And if I don't? Then you prove them wrong. You become something greater. Not a weapon, not a prisoner, a choice." The words hung heavy. The air itself seemed to wait. Her breath came faster, the storm inside her clawing to be free. She remembered cages, chains, whispers of fear, always the same story. She is death. And now, a human asked her to be more. Her voice cracked like thunder. "You gamble everything on me. Why?" He stepped closer, close enough to see the fire in her eyes. "Because that is what humanity does. We gamble, we risk, we trust, and sometimes we win." Her glow surged, filling the chamber with silver fire. The ship itself groaned under the force of her power. Outside, the fleet closed in, their weapons burning brighter, preparing for the final strike. The guards who had fled would tell stories of this moment. The galaxy would tremble with it, because this was where the prisoner would decide. She raised both hands. Energy crackled between her fingers, sharp and alive. The air vibrated with power. The human did not move, did not flinch. He stood in her storm, waiting. Her voice was a whisper, but it cut through the alarms. "If I follow you, I change the galaxy." "Yes," he said. "And if I destroy you, I change it still." "Yes," he repeated. Her eyes blazed brighter. "Then why do you not fear me?" He smiled faintly. "Because I have already chosen you." For the first time, her fire faltered. Not gone, but shaken. She searched his face, looking for lies, for weakness, for fear. She found none, only certainty. Slowly, she lowered her hands. The glow dimmed, then steadied, not in rage, but in control. The storm bent to her will, not the other way around. Outside, the warships prepared their final volley. She turned to the viewport, silver light burning in her eyes. "Then let the galaxy see," she whispered. "I am no prisoner." Her power erupted not in destruction but in command. The storm answered her call. Energy rippled outward, bending through the void. The fleet shuddered as systems flickered, weapons failed, engines froze. One by one, the warships fell silent, their lights dying against the stars. Not destroyed, not broken, stilled. She had chosen mercy. And yet, her message was louder than any slaughter. The galaxy would know. The human exhaled, his voice low. "You chose." She looked at him, her expression unreadable. "Do not mistake this for trust." "I won't," he said softly. "But," she added, her eyes burning with quiet fire, "perhaps I will see where this path leads." Her words were not surrender. They were a promise. Dangerous, fragile, unstoppable. The ship floated among silent giants, drifting between warships that dared not move. The stars stretched endless before them. The human returned to the pilot's chair, setting a new course into the unknown. The girl sat opposite him, her glow steady, her gaze sharp. No longer the last prisoner, no longer a weapon in a cage. Something new, something chosen. And in the shadows of the galaxy, whispers began again. The auction was over. The cages were empty. But the human had taken her. And this time, she had decided to stay. The stars stretched endless outside the viewport, cold and sharp like blades of glass. The storm was behind them now, fading into a violet glow. Silence filled the ship, broken only by the soft hum of engines. The girl sat in the chamber, her chains lying in a forgotten heap at her feet. The silver glow under her skin pulsed slowly, dimmer than during the battle, but never gone. Her eyes fixed on the stars, though her thoughts were far from them. The human adjusted the controls, steady hands guiding the vessel through the void. His face was calm, as if nothing extraordinary had happened, as if they had not just torn apart, afleet with a wave of her hand. Finally she spoke. Her voice was low but sharp. "You should fear me." He did not look at her. "I don't." "You saw what I did," she pressed. "You saw what I am. The storm bends, machines break, lives vanish because of me. And still you sit there, calm as if you are safe." At that he turned. His eyes met hers, steady, unblinking. "Safe? No. But I didn't take you for safety." Her brow furrowed. "Then why?" His answer was simple. "Because the galaxy has lied long enough." The words hung heavy in the small chamber. Her eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" He leaned back in his chair, his voice quiet but certain. "They tell stories of you. A curse, a danger, a thing to be locked away, but they never told why. They fear you because you are power. And not just power. Something older." She froze. For a heartbeat, the silver glow beneath her skin brightened. "Older?" she whispered. "Yes," he said. "Older than their empires, older than their fleets. They hide you because they know the truth. You are not a prisoner, you are a remnant." Her breath caught. Memories, half buried, flickered at the edge of her mind. Shadows of worlds she had seen. Flames. Voices calling her name in languages lost to time. She shook her head, forcing them away. "You cannot know this," she said sharply. "No human should know this." He smiled faintly. "And yet I do." She stood, sudden, her glow flaring. The chamber's panels flickered under her power. "Then speak. Tell me what I am." His gaze did not waver. "You are a weapon they cannot control, a key to wars they dare not fight. You are the last of what they could not kill." Her lips parted, but no words came. The truth pressed against her chest like a weight. She remembered cages, always cages, not just this one, but before. Different places, different faces, all afraid of her, all trying to contain something they could not understand. A whisper escaped her lips. "They tried to erase me." He nodded. "And they failed." Her glow dimmed again, though her hands still trembled with energy. She sat slowly, eyes distant. "You should have left me," she murmured. "I couldn't," he said. "Why? Why risk yourself? Why risk your species?" He leaned forward, voice calm but heavy with conviction. "Because humanity has always risen when others fell. We survive, not by being the strongest, but by daring to walk where no one else will. We see the cages others fear, and we open them." She stared at him, stunned by the weight of his words. No fear, no greed, only belief. For the first time, she felt something stir inside her that was not anger, not despair. It was dangerous, fragile, hope. But then, alarms blared again. The radar lit up with red. More ships, larger this time, closing in fast. They were not hunters. These were warships. The auctioneers had called reinforcements. The girl stood, fire returning to her eyes. They will not stop. No, the human agreed. They won't. Her voice hardened. Then this is where you die. He shook his head. No, this is where you choose. She blinked. Choose? He nodded slowly. You've spent your life in chains, hiding, destroying when forced. But now you have a choice. Stay what they fear, or become what they cannot imagine. Her glow pulsed brighter. The ship rattled under her power. She stepped closer, eyes blazing. And what do you imagine me to be, human? He held her gaze. Not a weapon, not a prisoner, a partner. For a long moment, silence ruled the chamber. Her glow burned against the dark, his calm burned against her rage. Then slowly her expression shifted. Not anger, not fear, something deeper. You gamble with your life, she whispered. He allowed a faint smile. Humanity always has. Outside, the warships closed in, their weapons powering up. The girl felt their presence like thorns in the air. She clenched her fists, the storm rising inside her once more. But this time it was different. This time, she was not alone. The ship lifted from the platform with a low growl. Metal shook, rain hammered the hull, and violet lightning cut the storm into pieces. The bay doors slid open, and the vessel rose into the dark sky. Inside, the air was heavy with silence. The guards had fled before launch, leaving only the girl and the human alone within the small craft. The chains lay forgotten on the floor, glowing faintly before their light died completely. She stood near the window, eyes fixed on the storm. Her hands brushed against the glass as if feeling the pulse of the world outside. The silver lines under her skin glowed brighter, answering the lightning with a rhythm of their own. The human sat in the pilot's chair, steady hands on the controls. His eyes flicked across the screens, guiding the ship through turbulence. He did not look at her often, but he did not need to. He could feel her presence like heat in the room, strong and undeniable. Finally she spoke. Her voice was quiet, but sharp. They will come. I know, he said. They will not stop. I know, he repeated. She turned, studying him. Then why do you still fly? Because forward is the only way. Her eyes narrowed. Forward into death? Forward into freedom. The ship shook harder. Alarms flashed red. On the radar, dark shapes appeared, hunter crafts rising from the storm below. The auction house had not wasted time. The buyers, the guards, the frightened collectors, none of them could allow her to vanish into the hands of a human. The girl watched the screens. Dozens of ships spread across the storm, closing in like wolves. Her chains may have fallen, but she was not free yet. The human pressed switches. Engines roared louder. The vessel cut through clouds, but the hunters followed. Their weapons lit the storm with fire. Bolts of plasma streaked across the sky, shaking the ship with each near hit. The girl whispered, "They will tear this ship apart," the human answered without turning. "Then don't let them." Her breath caught. She stared at him. "You dare ask me?" "I don't ask," he said. His voice was calm, steady. "I trust." For a moment she said nothing. Her fingers traced the glowing lines on her arm. Power hummed under her skin, begging to be released. She had always been the weapon others feared, the storm in a cage. But no one had ever trusted her, not once. Her eyes flicked to the hunters outside, ships circling, weapons locking. Her pulse quickened. The air grew hot. The storm seemed to lean closer, waiting. Then softly, she whispered, "Very well." The glow beneath her skin erupted. Silver fire blazed across her body, crawling up her neck, spilling into her hair until it shone like molten light. Her eyes blazed brighter than the storm. The ship itself seemed to shiver. Screens flickered. Panels hummed with energy not their own. The human glanced once over his shoulder. His face did not show fear, only focus. "Good," he said simply. "Now show them why they were afraid." Outside, the hunters closed in. One ship fired, its blast racing toward the human's vessel. But before it struck, the air bent. The blast curved away, vanishing into the storm. Another hunter moved closer. Its weapons glowed, then shut down, sparks exploding across its hull as systems died. The girl raised her hand, fingers curling in the air. The storm outside shifted, lightning twisting under her command. A bolt struck the nearest hunter, tearing it apart in a flash of white light. The rest hesitated. For the first time, the predators were prey. She stood tall in the chamber, chains at her feet, silver light flooding every shadow. Her voice carried like thunder. "I am no prisoner." The hunters panicked. Some fled back into the storm. Others fired wildly, but their weapons bent. Their blasts curved. Their ships shook under the weight of forces they did not understand. One by one, they broke apart, swallowed by lightning. The human guided the ship higher, breaking through the last wall of clouds. Stars appeared above, sharp and endless. The storm fell away below, carrying with it the wreckage of those who had chased. The alarms went silent. The radar cleared. Slowly, the girl lowered her hand. The glow faded, but did not disappear completely. Her chest rose and fell with steady breath. She looked stronger now, not fragile, not broken, but alive with power. The human adjusted the controls, setting the ship on a new course. He finally turned to her. "You are free now." She stared back. "Free?" Her voice was sharp, almost mocking. "Freedom does not come so easily. They will never stop." "Then neither will we," he said. She studied him for a long moment. No fear, no doubt, only certainty. For the first time, she wondered if perhaps he was as dangerous as she was. She sat down across from him, her eyes still glowing faintly. "You have taken me from the cage," she whispered, "but you have also taken their war." The human smiled, faint and calm. "Then let them come." Far behind, deep in the storm, survivors of the hunters whispered in terror. The story would spread faster than fire. The last prisoner had been unleashed, and worse, she was with a human. The loading bay was a place of echoes. Steel walls hummed with the thrum of engines. The storm outside flashed violet light through the high windows, painting shadows across the floor. Rows of ships rested on the platforms, their hulls slick with rain. The girl walked between the guards, her chains glowing faintly in the dark. Every rattle of metal seemed louder than thunder. She did not resist, but her silence was heavier than any shout. The human walked at her side, calm as ever. He gave no orders, no threats. He looked more like a man walking with a guest than a master walking with a prize. But the guards knew better. They gripped their weapons tight, their eyes darting from her to him, waiting for the moment when everything would break, and the girl knew it too. She could feel their fear. She could taste it in the air. When they reached the ship, the guards paused. The vessel was small, not fit for grand collectors. Its hull was old, scratched from past battles, its lights dim. It was no palace. It was a tool. The auctioneer's voice echoed in their minds, memory still fresh. "Sold to the human." One guard sneered, "You'll die before you reach orbit." The human ignored him. He touched the ship's panel, and the ramp opened with a hiss. Warm air spilled from within. He stepped aside, letting the guards lead her up first, but as she placed her foot on the ramp, she stopped. Her head turned slowly. Her eyes glowed like fire caught in crystal. She stared directly into the guard's face. "You fear death?" she whispered. The guard froze. His grip on the weapon shook. Sweat rolled down his scaled neck. He shoved her forward quickly, too quickly, as though afraid of what would happen if he looked into her eyes a second longer. The human followed them inside. His steps made no sound on the metal ramp. Inside, the ship was simple. Narrow corridors, low ceilings, control panels flickering with old code, but it was clean, functional. alive with hidden energy. The guards pushed her into a chamber with reinforced walls. A chair stood in the center, restraints waiting like open jaws. "Sit," one guard ordered. She tilted her head. "If I do not?" The guards raised their weapons instantly, blue light sparking at the tips. But before she could answer, the human spoke. "She won't be sitting there." The guards turned sharply. "Protocol demands I paid," he said, his voice calm but sharp as glass. "She is mine, and she will not be treated as cargo." The guards hesitated. His tone left no room for argument. Slowly, reluctantly, they lowered their weapons. The girl's gaze shifted back to him. For the first time, something flickered across her face. Not calm, not cold, but interest. He was different. The human stepped closer. He reached for her cuffs. The guards tensed, their weapons rising again. "Don't," one warned. "Those are the only thing keeping her contained." But the man ignored them. He touched the cuffs, fingers brushing against the glowing surface. With a quiet command into the ship's console, the locks hissed and fell open. The chains dropped to the floor. The sound rang like a bell in the silence. The girl flexed her hands slowly, silver lines burning brighter beneath her skin. Power rippled through her body, restrained only by her will. She could end this room in a heartbeat. Everyone knew it. The guards stepped back, weapons shaking, but she did not strike. She only stared at the man who had freed her. "Why?" she asked softly. He answered with the same calm that had followed him since the hall. "Because you were never meant to wear chains." The words hung heavy in the air. The guard's fear turned to anger. "You fool," one spat. "Do you even know what she is? She will destroy you, destroy all of us." The human looked at them without blinking. "Maybe, but that is not for you to decide." The girl lowered her gaze. For a moment her lips curved. It was not a smile. It was sharper than that, something between amusement and warning. She whispered, her voice carrying like a secret through the room. "You don't know what you've done." The human met her eyes. "I know exactly what I've done." The guards could take no more. They stepped back toward the exit, muttering curses, their weapons still pointed but their courage draining fast. They wanted nothing more to do with this madness. The human let them go. His attention never left her. She flexed her fingers again, feeling the freedom, feeling the storm inside her rise with every breath. She could break the ship. She could end the man. But for reasons she could not name, she didn't. Instead, she whispered again, "You are either brave or foolish." "Both," he replied without hesitation. Outside, the storm grew louder. Thunder rolled across the sky. Rain struck the hull like nails. The ship's engines roared to life. The platform shook. The guards fled to the bay doors, eager to escape before the launch. In the chamber, the girl and the human stood face to face, the chains lying useless at their feet. The stormlight flared through the windows, painting them both in violet glow, and, in that moment, a question hung in the air. Would she destroy him or would she follow him into the storm? The corridor swallowed them in silence. The sounds of the auction hall, laughter, whispers, claws tapping against stone, faded until they were only echoes in memory. Here, the air was colder. Shadows stretched long across the walls. The girls, chains rattled softly with every step. Two guards walked close, weapons ready, their eyes never leaving her. They had seen cages break. They had seen buyers torn apart. They had heard the stories. Those who tried to own her did not live long. Still, orders were orders. They forced their fear into silence and marched on. The human kept walking, at the same calm pace, hands behind his back, as if this was only a quiet evening stroll. She studied him, this ordinary man with simple clothes, unarmed, unafraid. His face did not show greed or fear like the others. No hunger in his eyes, no panic in his step. Instead, his voice still echoed in her mind. "I'll take her." "Why?" She lowered her gaze. silver light pulsing faintly beneath her skin. The cuffs were strong, glowing with alien tech, but she knew they could not hold her if she chose to break them. Yet she stayed quiet. Not because she was weak, because she was curious. At last she spoke. "You do not know me." The human looked at her, his eyes steady. "Not yet." The guards exchanged nervous glances. His answer was not the one they expected. Most buyers begged for obedience. They demanded silence. They feared her. This one answered like a man starting a conversation with an equal. Her lips curved just slightly. Not a smile, something sharper. "Do you want to know me?" His reply was calm, almost gentle. "I already do." The words cut deeper than any blade. She stopped walking. The guards tightened their grips, ready for her to strike, but she did nothing. She only turned her head, her glowing eyes fixed on him. "Then whisper it," she said. "Tell me what you know." The corridor seemed to hold its breath. The human leaned closer, his voice low. "You are not their prisoner. You are their fear. That's why they kept you in the last cage. That's why they dared not bid. You are not for sale. You are for hiding." The guards stiffened, their hands shaking. The girl's chest rose with a slow breath. No one had ever spoken it aloud. Not the traders, not the collectors, not even those who had owned her for a short doomed time. But this man, this human, had whispered the truth. Her voice was barely audible. "And yet, you took me." "I did," he answered. "You risk everything." "I do." "Why?" He leaned closer still, his words softer than the rattling of her chains. "Because they fear you. And when others fear, humanity sees opportunity." The girl's eyes widened, silver light flaring under her skin. For the first time, her calm broke. She searched his face for lies, for madness, for weakness. She found none, only steady resolve. The guard shifted uneasily. One muttered under his breath, "Fool human, dead already." But the human did not flinch. He kept his eyes locked on hers. Finally, she whispered back, "You think you can control me?" "No," he said. "I think we can free each other." The words struck like thunder in silence. The girl's heart raced, though she did not show it. Her chains glowed brighter, reacting to the pulse of her power. The guards stumbled, back, weapons raised, fear plain on their faces. But she did not move against them. She only turned back to the human. Something unreadable flickered across her expression. Anger, curiosity, maybe even hope. She lowered her voice once more, her whisper sharp and cold. "You will regret this." The human finally allowed a faint smile. "Maybe. Or maybe this is the beginning." The corridor opened into a loading bay. Beyond the wide gates, the sky of an alien world stretched, painted with 2 moons and a storm of violet clouds. Ships waited on the platform, their lights glowing through the mist. The guards led them toward a small transport craft. The girl's gaze stayed fixed on the sky. For the first time in cycles, she was outside the cage. She could feel the storm's energy brush against her skin, feeding the glow of the silver lines that marked her body. Freedom, so close. She turned her head, whispering one last time, more to herself than to him. "They were right to fear me." The human heard. He did not. "Slow." "Good," he said. "Fear is a weapon, and together, we will use it." The bay doors closed behind them with a heavy clang. The hall, the auctioneer, the crowd of frightened buyers, all vanished into memory. But deep in the shadows of the station, whispers had already begun to spread. A human had claimed the last prisoner. A human had taken what no one else dared, touch. And with every retelling, the story grew darker, because everyone knew one thing: sooner or later, chains break. And when hers did, the galaxy would change forever. The hammer's echo still hung in the air when the cage door creaked. The crowd of aliens leaned forward, their many eyes, jaws, and antennas twitching with curiosity. No one had expected a human voice. No one had expected anyone to claim her. For cycles, she had been the shadow at the end of the hall, the prize no one dared to touch. Now the silence of ages was broken. The auctioneer swallowed. His long fingers tapped nervously against the podium. He had shouted 1,000 sales before, but this one made his voice shake. "Release the prisoner," he ordered. 2 guards approached the cage. They were twice the size of men, armored in black plates, carrying weapons that glowed with cold light. Yet their steps were slow, careful. Even they looked uneasy. The cage door groaned open. Metal screeched. Dust fell. The girl did not move. She sat exactly as before, knees close to her chest, hair tangled around her face. Only her eyes lifted, watching the guards with a calm that was more frightening than rage. "Stand up," one guard barked. She didn't answer. For a heartbeat, it looked as though she would refuse. Then, slowly, she unfolded her legs and rose. Her movements were quiet, fluid, almost too graceful for someone who had spent so long in chains. She stepped forward into the dim light. The crowd gasped. Up close, she looked human. Almost. Her skin was pale, marked by faint glowing lines that curled like silver veins under the surface. Her hair shimmered with a strange light, dark one moment, bright the next. And her eyes, those eyes, glowed faintly as though they carried stars inside them. The whispers grew louder. "She is not one of us. She is not one of them. She is something else." The human buyer stood still, waiting. His face was calm, unreadable, but his eyes did not leave hers. The guards shackled her wrists with glowing cuffs, though their hands trembled. When the lock sealed, she tilted her head slightly as if she knew the cuffs were useless. The guards looked away, avoiding her gaze, and pulled her from the cage. The auctioneer forced another smile. "Sold," he said loudly, as though the word could silence the unease. To the human bidder, the man stepped forward, holding out a small token of trade. The auctioneer snatched it quickly, as if the object might burn his skin. The transaction was complete. But the hall did not cheer, not this time. The crowd only watched, their voices low, their fear spreading like smoke. A legend had been moved, from shadow to hand. A secret was now in the possession of a human. The girl was led down the steps, chains rattling softly. The human walked beside her. He did not try to touch her. He did not try to comfort her. He only walked, his presence steady, as though he had walked this path before. At the edge of the hall, the noise of the crowd grew distant. The lights faded behind them. For a moment, it was only the echo of their footsteps in the long corridor. Finally, she spoke. Her voice was soft, yet it carried power like a whisper that refused to die. "You don't know what you've done." The human turned his head slightly. "Maybe I do." Her eyes narrowed. For the first time, a flicker of emotion crossed her face. Surprise. Then quickly it was gone. She looked away, the faint silver lines on her skin glowing brighter for an instant. "You cannot keep me," she said. "I don't plan to keep you," he replied. "Then why take me?" "Because you were waiting," he answered simply. Her steps slowed, but the guards pushed her forward. She fell silent again, yet her mind raced. For cycles, no one had dared to claim her. They had feared her curse, feared the stories whispered in the shadows of spaceports and black markets. But this man, this human, spoke as though he knew the truth already, and that made him dangerous. Back in the hall, the auctioneer wiped sweat from his brow. The crowd began to break apart, but not with laughter or celebration. Their voices were sharp, uneasy. Some said the human was a fool, already, marked for death. Others said perhaps he was brave enough or foolish enough to use what others feared. A few whispered darker things, that maybe the human knew exactly what she was, and that was the most dangerous possibility of all. The last prisoner was gone, but the story of her sale would travel across systems, and in every world where the tale was told, creatures would shiver. Because no one believed she would stay chained for long, and if she broke free, what then? The corridor stretched onward. The human and the prisoner walked side by side. The glow of the cuffs reflected faintly on her skin. She did not resist. She did not beg. She only waited, eyes half hidden beneath her hair. The man finally spoke again, his tone low, steady. "They think you are cursed." She gave no reply. "They think you bring death." Still silence. He glanced at her. "They are wrong. You are not death. You are something much greater." Her head snapped toward him, eyes blazing with sudden fire. For the first time her mask cracked. The glow under her skin pulsed like lightning. She stopped walking. The guards froze, weapons raised, afraid of what might happen. The man only stood there, calm, as if he had expected this moment. His words cut through the heavy air. "And that is why I came." Her breathing slowed. The glow faded, just a little. She turned away, hiding her expression. But inside her chest, something shifted. For the first time in a long time, she felt the strange pull of curiosity. Perhaps this human was not like the others. Perhaps, just perhaps, he truly did know what he had done. The hall was not a normal place. It was a market of shadows. The ceiling was lost in smoke, the lights were weak, and the smell of fear filled the air. Hundreds of cages stood in long rows. Each cage once held something alive, something strange, something rare. But now almost all were empty. Only broken chains and the echo of screams remained. The audience was not human. They were creatures from many worlds. Some had glassy skin that showed their organs beating inside. Some had heads full of sharp teeth. Others had no eyes but clicked their tongues in the dark. All of them were hunters, traders, and collectors. They had come here for one thing: to buy living prizes. The auctioneer stood at the center of the stage. His long arms waved with style, his many eyes glittered with greed. He shouted the names of species. He shouted prices. And the crowd raised their hands, their claws, their shining devices to bid. One by one, cages were emptied. One by one, creatures were taken away, sold to the highest offer. The sound of the hammer echoed, sold, sold, sold. The noise grew. The excitement rose. The buyers laughed, whispered, roared. The hall was alive with hunger and power, and then silence. The hammer stopped. The crowd leaned forward. There was only one cage left. It stood at the far end of the hall, half covered in shadow. A single dim light flickered above it, like a dying flame. Inside the cage sat a figure. She was not like the others. She was not a beast, not a monster with claws or fangs. She looked small. She looked fragile. She sat with her back against the wall, her knees pulled close, her hair falling over her face. Her eyes, when they lifted, shone with a strange light, not the light of weakness, not the light of despair. Something else, something unspoken. The auctioneer hesitated. His voice dropped lower, almost nervous. "And now," he said slowly, "the final lot of the night." The crowd murmured. They leaned to see. Some hissed, some laughed. A few even stepped back. "No," a voice whispered from the crowd. "Not her. She is cursed." Another muttered. "She is not safe." Rumors passed like a wave. Stories, warnings. They said no traitor had dared to keep her for long. They said she was more dangerous than she looked. They said her presence meant disaster. Still, the auctioneer forced a smile. He hit the hammer on the podium. "Who will start the bidding?" Silence. The audience, once loud and hungry, now avoided. The cage. Eyes looked down. No hands were raised, no voices offered a price. Even the bravest collectors stayed quiet. The hall felt colder. The smoke seemed thicker. The silence stretched too long. The girl in the cage lifted her head. Her face was pale but calm. She did not cry. She did not beg. She only stared at the crowd with those strange eyes, as if she already knew the answer. As if she already knew what was coming. The auctioneer's smile cracked. His voice shook. Come now. She is rare. She is valuable. Surely someone will take her. No reply. The hammer trembled in his hand. Sweat slid down his skin. He raised the hammer again. Going once, he said, going twice. The hall was heavy with tension. Every creature leaned forward, but no one spoke. No one dared. For a moment, it seemed the cage would stay closed forever. That she would remain unsold, unwanted, left behind as a mystery no one was brave enough to touch. And then, it happened. A sound cut through the silence. Soft, clear, human. I'll take her. Every head turned, every eye searched. From the back of the hall, a man stepped forward. He was not tall. He did not wear armor or jewels. His clothes were plain, his face ordinary. But his voice was calm, strong, unshaken. The crowd gasped. Murmurs broke out. A human? One hissed. Impossible, shouted another. Fool, laughed a third. The auctioneer froze. His many eyes blinked fast. But the rule of the auction was clear. When a bid is made, it must be honored. The man walked closer, step by step, until the shadows gave way to the dim light. His gaze never left the cage, and the girl inside, for the first time, lifted her head fully to see him. For a brief second, her lips curved. Not a smile, not relief. Something else. A warning, a secret. The hammer fell with a final echo. Sold. The hall erupted into whispers, growls, and laughter. Some thought the man brave, others thought him mad, but none could look away. None could stop watching, because deep inside they all felt the same cold truth. Something had just changed. Something was about to begin.